A freezing wind tore across the open Ukrainian steppe as a small convoy of Russian military trucks rolled cautiously along a narrow supply route, unaware that every movement was already being watched from above. It began as a quiet morning. No artillery, no distant drones humming in the sky, no sign of ambush. But hidden deep in a cluster of abandoned farm buildings, a Ukrainian drone team monitored the landscape with calm precision. Their trap had been set long before the convoy even appeared. A tiny recon drone hovered silently at high altitude, almost invisible, feeding real-time visuals to screens below. The soldiers knew exactly what they were waiting for, and they knew this ambush had only one chance to work. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Conflict Front Stories channel. Please subscribe and like my videos because today's story reveals one of the most brilliant drone tactics Ukraine has used in weeks, an operation that outsmarted Russia and trapped a convoy in minutes. Exterior winds pushed clouds low across the ground as the convoy pressed forward, engines rumbling in tight formation. The road stretched endlessly ahead, bordered by open fields dusted with snow, leaving the vehicles totally exposed. The Ukrainian drone team had been tracking Russian supply movements in this region for days, analyzing patterns, timing, and weak spots. The area looked quiet, even lifeless, but every meter of it had been mapped. The Ukrainians knew that the Russians preferred this route because it avoided main roads and stayed hidden from satellite-monitored highways. They also knew this advantage made the convoy predictable. The first part of the trap relied on timing. The drone decoys needed to appear just seconds before the real strike team moved in. The Ukrainians wanted the Russians to think they had spotted a weak threat, something easy to shoot down, something distracting enough to slow them down. Slowing them was the real intention. Inside the dim interior of an improvised command post, the Ukrainian drone operator kept his eyes locked on the thermal signatures glowing on his screen. The short interior space smelled of fuel, cold metal, and damp clothes, but every operator sat still, waiting for the commander's signal. The room was small and cramped, lit only by tablets and wires running like veins across the table. The interior tension was thick, but their voices stayed low. Every movement outside mattered. Every second counted. Back on the road, the Russian convoy noticed movement in the sky, small buzzing shapes approaching from the west. The vehicles slowed. Soldiers craned their necks upward, unsure if the incoming drones carried explosives or were simple scouts. But that hesitation was all Ukraine needed. The decoy drones were cheap models, deliberately flying low and erratically to draw attention. Russian machine gunners fired bursts into the air, momentarily halting the convoy. That was step 1. Step 2 was already in motion. The real Ukrainian strike drones flew from the east, disguised by clouds and the sun's angle. They moved silently, high above the decoys, invisible to the Russians who were now preoccupied with firing upward. These drones carried the actual payload, small explosive charges designed for precision strikes. As the Russian trucks clustered closer together for protection, they unknowingly created the perfect kill zone. Ukrainian commanders watching from kilometers away saw the convoy bunch up exactly as planned. It was time. Inside the interior control station, the drone pilot calmly adjusted his joystick. He whispered coordinates to the commander, who nodded without hesitation. Another operator relayed real-time updates about wind direction, Russian movements, and nearby electronic interference. The room felt quiet but sharp with focus. A single breath could have been heard. Then, with a simple push forward on the controller, the first strike drone descended. The first explosion erupted near the front truck, not large enough to destroy it but strong enough to halt its progress. The convoy slammed brakes. Dust and snow shot upward. Soldiers scattered. The perfect chaos had begun. The second drone hit moments later, targeting a fuel carrier in the middle of the column. Flames burst skyward, black smoke rising fast and thick. Ukrainian recon drones captured everything, transmitting the images instantly to the operators. Now the convoy was trapped, front blocked, middle burning, rear confused. Exactly as planned. Exterior chaos ripped through the Russian formation as soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting orders lost in the roar of flames. Vehicles reversed but could not maneuver on the narrow path without colliding into each other. The Ukrainian drones continued circling overhead like silent predators. Every time a soldier tried to reposition a vehicle or mount a machine gun, a drone camera zoomed in, marking them for the next strike. The battlefield had become a cage. Inside the interior bunker, the operators communicated in short, quick phrases. Target locked. Wind steady. Remaining drones ready. The simplicity of each sentence mirrored the razor-sharp clarity of their strategy. These operators were not improvising, they were executing a plan refined through months of experience. Drone warfare had become Ukraine's equalizer against larger Russian formations, and this operation demonstrated exactly why. As the minutes passed, the Russians attempted to launch their own counter-drones. Small quadcopters rose shakily into the sky, searching for the Ukrainian teams. But the Ukrainians had prepared for this. A jammer hidden behind a tree line activated immediately, sending waves of interference across the air. Russian drones lost connection, spiraled wildly, and crashed into the fields. Ukrainian soldiers monitoring the jammer panel exchanged only brief nods. Their trap was tightening. Then came the final phase, the precision cleanup. The Ukrainian strike drones dove one by one, hitting engine blocks, tires, and weapons mounts. They did not need to destroy every vehicle completely. Immobilization was often more effective. Smoke plumes drifted across the frozen fields as panic spread among the Russian troops. Their radios crackled with broken commands. The convoy was no longer fighting back. It was only trying to survive. Exterior drone footage captured the devastation: trucks burning, soldiers running into open ground, others hiding behind damaged vehicles that offered no real protection. Each drone strike felt like a chapter in a carefully written play: the calm decoys, the sudden ambush, the precision hits, the electronic interference, and finally the total immobilization of the convoy. In less than 10 minutes, the operation was over. Inside the Ukrainian interior control room, the mood shifted from tense to calm relief. Operators leaned back, taking deep breaths. One of them wiped fog from a small window, revealing the cold outside world. Another finalized the mission log, recording every drone used, every strike delivered, every unexpected moment. The room remained dim and quiet, but a soft energy filled it, a sense of accomplishment. They had outsmarted a larger force using intelligence, precision, and patience. The convoy site continued burning as Ukrainian troops later moved in to secure the area. Scattered equipment, abandoned rifles, and damaged vehicles lay across the landscape. Engineers inspected the wrecks for useful parts. Soldiers documented evidence with photos and coordinates. This wasn't just a victory, it was information gathering for the next operation, the next trap, the next convoy that would repeat the same mistakes. Exterior Ukrainian units approached the scene carefully, checking for survivors and potential mines. Smoke clung to the frozen air, and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield. It looked almost surreal, like a slow-motion image frozen in time. The convoy that had confidently moved along this route just hours earlier was now a graveyard of metal and debris. Tactical brilliance had turned an ordinary supply run into a catastrophe. Back in the interior base, commanders reviewed the footage. The entire operation was dissected second by second, analyzing how quickly the convoy slowed, how effectively the decoys drew fire, and how perfectly the timing aligned. These reviews were crucial. Each one allowed Ukraine to refine their tactics further. Drone warfare was not just about the machines, it was about strategy, timing, psychology, and adaptability. This mission proved that Ukraine understood all of it. Across the exterior front lines, news began spreading among Ukrainian units. Word of the successful ambush boosted morale. Soldiers shared clips, praising the drone team's precision and calm under pressure. The Russians, meanwhile, would have to rethink their supply routes, their convoy spacing, and their air defenses. Every mistake they made today would echo across future operations. As the story of the ambush reached broader audiences, analysts pointed out how Ukraine had evolved its drone techniques. It wasn't just about kamikaze drones anymore. It was about deception, coordination, and using cheap tools to force expensive consequences on the enemy. A few low-cost drones had eliminated millions of dollars in equipment and disrupted Russian supply chains in the region. This asymmetry was the heart of Ukraine's new battlefield strategy. Interior military planners began preparing the next wave of tactics. The operators returned to their stations, cleaned their screens, reset their equipment, and reviewed battery levels. The atmosphere was calm again. But this calm was never permanent. Every operator knew that within hours or days, another convoy would appear, another opportunity would present itself, and another carefully designed trap would unfold. Exterior night settled over the steppe, cold and silent. But in that silence, drones still buzzed thousands of feet above the ground, watching, waiting, observing every movement. The battlefield had changed forever. No convoy could move confidently anymore. Every shadow in the sky carried danger. Every quiet field could hide a drone team. Every route had become a trap waiting to be triggered. The Ukrainians walked away from the operation proud but focused. They knew they had outsmarted Russia this time, and they would need to keep adapting to stay ahead. But for now, they had achieved exactly what they intended. A strategic victory executed in minutes, shaped by intelligence and carried out by drones that never missed a beat. The burning convoy in the distance crackled softly as the wind swept across the open land. Snowflakes drifted slowly downward, settling on twisted metal and charred engines. The battlefield was quiet once again, but the story of what happened here would travel far beyond this frozen road. It would become one more example of how Ukraine, with limited resources but unmatched innovation, could outthink a larger military power using precision, patience, and the skies above. And that is how Ukraine outsmarted Russia using drone tactics so sharp, so calculated, and so effective that an entire convoy was trapped and neutralized in minutes, another chapter in a war where intelligence has become as powerful as any weapon.